Again Thursday night, and we are right here at the Sports Crib. I see Frank is already in the queue, and hopefully we'll be joined by Mr. Rucker and Bill soon. Anyway, strange things I've heard this week, but first let's get Frank in here. Frank, how have you been doing, my man?
Doing well about yourself today.
Oh, doing fine, doing fine. Uh, I heard something very amusing today. Um, and although I know we call him the Beast, and we think of him, as being one of those guys that can do everything. Black man with hockey gear. Uh, what are you thinking there, Frank?
I'm sorry, say that again. I just heard the first part and the rest of it just went completely out of my head.
Uh, Black man hockey. The Beast mode. What's your thoughts when you heard
Kind of scares me.
that?
Kind of scares me. It's just something you not associate with, first, we don't really talk a lot of hockey, so, and it's one of those things you go, did I just see that right? What's going on here?
Yeah, I know we do have a few black hockey, two, I believe, maybe three. Uh, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name of it. Not one of them, but
There are two
I
of them
should.
actually here in Las Vegas playing with the Golden Knights, so
And one came with, and there was one back. There's one back east here, right?
hmm
Uh,
hmm
okay, yeah. So like you said, first of all, Marshawn Lynch on skates I mean, you know, uh,
well, we've gone on record on a couple of our different programs, and when we talk about who can do what and who are the greatest athletes in the world and all that, we rarely bring up hockey players. But then when you think about what they have to do, where they have to do it, and how they have to do it, it's kind of amazing because you see guys, they're just plucking pucks out of the air with a stick. They're skating around at full speed, knocking each other down. When I was a kid, I tried to skate and I ended up sliding more than I did skating. So, now I don't know about Marshawn, but the thing about that is you look at hockey players and you think, okay, they're just Canadians on skates. Then you look at like Chara, that's with the geez, he was with the Bruins, and I think he's now with the where do you go? He went to Washington, I believe. And you go, this guy's 6'9" on skates. So he's like 7'3" running around out there. So there's some big guys doing some powerful stuff. I always say that when you get a guy on skates and he can do the stuff that they do, it's pretty amazing. Now, I'd like to see Marshawn out there and see what he can do. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to see.
uh, does it kind of make you go back to that Super Bowl game and Russell Wilson throwing the pass?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, it's time for y'all to get out the way. Here I come. You know,
Just, but speaking of that, and I didn't put it down as as one of the questions, but we'll definitely be talking about Pete Carroll and what may or may not be in his future. But we'll talk about
mhm.
that later. Um, my first thought, of course, is of the flat man, Kyrie. I mean, there are some things that and I thought about this when uh, James made his debut, and he's throwing down triple double and 30 points, and Kevin Durant is putting in another 40 plus, and I'm saying to myself, but there's no Kyrie out
Right, right.
there. you know,
What happens when
yeah,
he joins the mix? Yeah.
yeah, everything's good now, and we're looking like we're clicking here. And then Kyrie comes back, throws down 37 points, and they lose in double overtime to the worst offensive team in the NBA.
Yeah.
Okay. I turned it
Now,
over.
I will say, Colin Sexton played his butt off. He did. He really did. But
So
okay.
so he out. So when he plays,
He outplayed all three of them.
He outplays.
You know,
And how much does he cost the Cavaliers a year?
not as much as Kyrie shoestrings, that's for darn sure. You know, the problem, and having been in coaching and knowing people that do this and all that, the situation is this. It doesn't really matter who you have. It helps, but the goal is to score one more point than the other team. And whether that means that the final score is 12-11 or 143-142 or whatever it is, it really doesn't make a big difference if you can figure out how you want to do it. Now, I think we see that the Nets are going to be able to score. I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I think they're going to share the ball better than what we've said they were going to because they're professional basketball players. So, you know, certain people want to have the ball, but certain people understand it's still basketball. And even if you're playing in the park or in the gym or somebody's backyard, you play the best way you can for the team to operate. Having said that, there's one problem that we're missing here. Who in the world's going to play defense? So if you're going to score 160 points or whatever it's going to be, you still can't give up 161 because at the end of the game, you still lost the game. Now, is that an aberration that that's how it happened? You know, who knows? But like you said, the not normally explosive Cleveland Cavaliers get enough points to win a game when you've got three guys over 30 or 40 or 70 or whatever the heck it was. And that shouldn't happen, should it? But yet it did. So
and the last 4 minutes, they're on the court together.
Mm-hmm.
The last 4 minutes of regulation.
Should be able to close the door. But again, someone's going to have to play some defense. Now, you can say that Harden isn't in the greatest shape of his life. That's on him. That's not anybody else. But maybe he gets in shape, he'll be able to play better defense.
Okay. Now, maybe is really a tough word there. Harden playing defense. Nah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, you know, somebody may see the light.
Well, I mean, Kyrie, if he lets his ego out of the way, can play some defense. He can. Kevin Durant is known to play defense when he has to. So KD can be that defensive guy, but he also has to be a scorer, you know, and I think he has to be somewhat of a mediator.
Right.
This is not Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. You know, this is a different animal. You know,
but I think this
is the third team that they've been on together, Kevin Durant and Harden, and they always come up. Yeah, sure.
Well, I think the thing, and again, I'm done talking about the selfishness or the perceived selfishness. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. You know, what it may look like may not be what it actually is. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore. That's that's something that they're going to have to deal with. Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni are going to have to deal with. I can't do anything about that. That's what it is. But what I will say is this is the easiest time in the history of the NBA to play defense. Only one guy moves at a time. Rarely that. So if you can guard the ball, everyone else is standing in one spot waiting for you to get the ball. It's not like you got basket cutters and you know, running an actual set or anything like that. So, you know, if you can guard the ball and then when the guy jumps up there and tries to throw it out behind him, you can stand there and go, oh, he's covered. You know, that's not bad. So if you can't play defense in the NBA now, I don't know when you could ever play defense. You know, you got to just be able to guard the screen and roll or pick and pop. And that's it. and the guy with the ball. So, and I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's based, in my opinion, that's what it is. So if you're a bad defender in the NBA, you're a bad defender. If your guy gets the ball and you can't check him one-on-one, that's cool. There are a lot of great offensive players in the league, but they're not shooting 70% from the field either. And if you get Kevin Durant the ball in places where he wants the ball, he might shoot 60% the entire season. He's that good. James Harden, offensively, on a good night, is good enough to shoot 60%, 50%. He's that good. Kyrie can distribute the ball and get himself in the lane and find people. He's that good. So all you have to do is play a modicum of defense. Find somebody to play on-ball defense and you're good. The rest of them, you just have to make sure the guy standing there, you're standing next to him. It can't be that hard. Yet, we saw the guys just standing there wide open, getting open threes. Like, how is that possible? Now, that's not just to denigrate the Nets. Everybody does that, which I still can't figure out. But it's to say, if you can put up the numbers that they can offensively, if you can stand next to a guy standing in one spot, you should be able to win a lot of games with that team. Now, the question is, can they do that? I don't know.
You brought up a good point there when you were talking about, like all you have to do is play a modicum of defense. And, look, we can kind of go back to the old days where, you had that one shot, that was indefensible. And you know where I'm going with this. The
Oh,
old
yeah.
sky hook.
Oh, yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The most effective shot in basketball. Why don't we use it anymore? Especially when you say you got two men standing there in the back, you got one guy standing there in the middle. That you don't have to pay. I mean, nobody's playing defense on you. Throw it in there. Whoop.
I've been asking myself this question for 40 years. I have no idea. My dad shot the skyhook, and I was 16, 17 years old, could jump out of the gym, and he'd go, all right, boy, I'm going to show you how to play. And he'd take me out in the driveway, and I'm like, I'm practicing dunking and all this stuff. And he'd go, all that stuff's not going to help you any. I'm like, okay, right, old man, show me what you got. He'd go on the block, step on my foot, elbow me in the throat, throw up the skyhook, boom. I'm laying on the ground. He looked at me and go, now go cut the grass. I mean, you couldn't stop it. So there was a day when he was probably, I want to say in his 50s at that point, where I actually jumped up and blocked it. Well, the day was the last day we played, but I jumped up and blocked it. And he's like, I've never had that block before. And I went, I mean, I didn't really pay attention to him. And I talked to my brother, and he's like, yeah, I never saw anyone block that shot. It's like, really? Well, that's because I was younger and more athletic than he was. But when we would talk about basketball later, he would say the same thing. Why doesn't anyone shoot that hook shot? Not the jump hook, which is also something that's hard to stop. But when you're 7'2", or let's say 6'10", and you're able to create space like Kareem did, and then have the reverse the other way with the turnaround jumper. Yeah, I mean, he was doing that when he was in his 40s and couldn't be stopped. As long as you can get position. And it's not like he was a beast. He was 7'2", 235, and he was long and strong, but it wasn't like he was just going to knock you out of the way. I don't know what it is. The only thing I can think of is because it doesn't look like it's a masculine, manly shot. You're not taking people to the block and dunking on them. It's a finesse play. It's like Rick Barry said. Rick Barry is one of the best shooters in a game. They said, why do you shoot, underhanded free throws? Because it's more efficient than shooting a regular shot. Why doesn't anyone else do it? Because they don't want to look like a sissy. Well, that's stupid, isn't it? But I think that's the explanation. My dad didn't teach me how to shoot the skyhook. I didn't pick it up from him. My brother didn't pick it up from him. It died back then. It died in the 70s. I don't know why. Even when Kareem's playing in championship games in the mid-'80s, at the advanced stage that he was, and they're still throwing the ball in the block, and he's still, take that, McHale and Parrish and whoever else you want to bring in, Greg Kite. I can still make this shot. Why wouldn't you pick that up? I have no idea. Now our generation picked up the dream shake and all that stuff from Elijah, which is a lot harder to figure out and takes a lot more coordination, a lot more athleticism. Or you could be Shaq and just turn around and dunk on people. Well, that takes a certain amount of skill that most of us don't have. I could teach a third grader to shoot a skyhook. So why don't we do it? I have no clue. And especially when you have these guys that can't score. Well, of course, now you don't have post play. You really don't. I mean, look at the NBA and come up with 5 guys that are post players, back to the basket post players. I don't think there are. I don't think you can find somebody to go, we need a bucket, put him on the block, and get him the ball. It doesn't work that way. So that's another thing that's gone. And with the 3-point line, I would assume there's even more space to be able to shoot the skyhook. But that's why I'm sitting here talking about it. I don't know.
I mean, can you imagine, before you throw the ball into the basket to score, now you throw it out to the 3-point line to score. It just seems,
Well, when I was coaching, and I just started, and they had this rebounding machine, and it's this big net thing, and it shoots the ball out to you, and you take a shot, and it goes through, and you can put multiple balls in it, and great, and they're using that as a passing machine as well, but it's passing the ball out from underneath the basket, and they said this is good to get your rhythm. I was like, you have guys catching the ball in the perimeter with passes coming from 4 feet from the basket. If we get the ball that close to the basket, I don't want them to get used to taking that shot. That pass shouldn't come from there. So I question the validity of that machine. They said, oh, no, that's the way we play. I'm like, oh, bull crap. But that's it. I was watching a game the other day, and I'm going to forget who it was that was playing. They threw it into the middle of the lane. The guy caught the ball with his back to the basket just above the block travel circle, never looked at the basket, and threw it to the other side for a 3-pointer. Never looked at the basket. He didn't know if anyone was behind him or not. That's the way the game's played now. Got to get used to it because that's what it is. But that surefire 2-pointer from 8 feet away or 6 feet away, when you actually go back to the basket and make a post move, that's going away. It's catch it and kick it back out for a 3. And 3 points are more than 2 points. So I understand that part. But it still doesn't make a lot of sense that, you don't take the sure 2. Baffled. Yeah. I don't know.
Unless you're 3 points behind. Then
well, yeah. Right.
Yeah, it makes quite a bit of difference there. Karl Malone says that Zion should be in better shape to play basketball, especially this being his second year. What do you think about that? Is it time for Zion to report in shape and ready to play basketball, or is he taking the Kendrick Perkins?
The thing about Zion is a whole different animal. We don't know who Zion is. We've never seen anything like that before. My comparison, people said it was Charles Barkley. My comparison was Larry Johnson. And Larry Johnson was a big dude, but he was also a big dude in shape. Now, when you say big dude, 6'7", 250, okay. Zion looks tubby, not chubby, tubby. He looks like he could be a little more chiseled. Now, having said that, we don't know. We said the same thing about Barkley. And even when Barkley got himself into some kind of shape or into really good shape, he still looked a little tubby, and I'm the last person to say Charles Barkley couldn't play ball. But he was in even better shape. Well, maybe that's just his body mechanic or his body makeup. Who knows? I don't know. But if I'm going to receive criticism from Karl Malone, I'm going to listen. Whatever you think about Karl Malone, whatever you thought he was as, politics or his mouth or whatever, Karl Malone can play the ball. And Karl Malone took himself from being a good physical specimen to being one heck of a ball player. Remember when Karl Malone couldn't make a foul shot to save his life? I mean, it was tough. It was like watching Dale Davis, and he ends up being an 80% foul shooter because he worked at it. You know, Karl Malone shooting an open elbow jumper or a little further out than that. Go ahead, take that. That became his bread and butter. He worked on it. If it had been more prevalent at the time, Karl Malone probably would have become a decent 3-point shooter. You know, he would have had to work on the form, obviously, but he probably would have done it because he worked at it. So Karl Malone tells you you can be something if you work at it. I listen to him. You know, for me, the jury's still out on Zion because I still don't know what position he plays. I still don't know what his actual talents are. He's an amazing physical specimen, but there have been a lot of those, and I don't know what he's going to do. Where's his go-to move, or does he have one? Another guy maybe a skyhook would work for. You know, can he defend? What position does he defend? He can defend a lot of positions, yeah, but which ones does he do well? You know, is he going to be a rebounder, or is he going to be like a Dennis Rodman who gets rebounds that he shouldn't get, or is he just going to be, well, I was standing here and the ball came off and I grabbed it? You know, there are a lot of those guys that get rebounds because, like when Kevin Love was going for 20 and 10 in Minnesota, you went, wow. It's like, well, there's no one else rebounding. Someone's got to get the ball. You know, so is he going to be that guy, or is he going to be the guy that gets rebounds no matter who's on the floor? I don't know that yet. You know, it's still early, but the way we play now, I read an article the other day about Lonzo Ball being, you know, traded or dumped, or is his career over? He went, well, it's only his 4th year. Well, 4 years is too long now. So, you know, it's put up or shut up time. And this is the season, even though with, you know, the pandemic and all that, this is the season where Zion's going to have to say, A, can he stay healthy? And does that mean he has to get in better shape in order to stay healthy? Who knows? You know, I've got awful knees, and I know jumping up and down on knees when I was in decent physical shape, that's not a good thing. And I know jumping up and down on knees when you're not in good physical shape, that's really bad. And doing it 82 nights a year, body can only take so much.
Yeah. And you talk. It's not like you're talking about somebody LeBron's age. You're talking about a young man. You're talking about
Right.
somebody, like you say, somebody whose career is just starting, and he doesn't have an identity. Uh, as you said, and you have a lot of expectations that are on his shoulders. That what's going to happen when he decides to pull an Anthony Davis after 4 years.
Well, exactly. Right.
J-
Well, and you mentioned LeBron, and the thing, LeBron didn't have an identity his first couple of years either. That was because he could do too much. It's like, is he a scorer? Is he a distributor? Should we play him at the point? What should we do? The team had to decide that because they couldn't figure out where to put it. Is he playing power point guard? They didn't know what to do with him because he could do so much. That's different. This guy, it's like we don't know what he's best at because he hasn't shown what he's best at. Whereas LeBron was like, he can do whatever he wants to, whenever he wants to do it. We just have to figure out how it fits in with the team.
Yeah, but LeBron had been playing that way since he would put a basketball in his hand. I mean, who knows? I mean, for Zion,
Well,
it was a different process to begin with. I mean, he was, I don't. He might have been Mr. Basketball somewhere, but I mean, I don't, uh,
I hadn't heard of him until that year at Duke. I mean, McDonald's All American, that was about. I'll tell you since we have a minute before anyone else gets here. I saw LeBron play his sophomore year at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary.
okay.
Okay. And most of the rest of his class were sophomores too. They had one senior whose name is going to escape me now. But it was him and Shea Cotton, Romeo Travis, Drew Joyce, guys that went on to play at Akron, Buffalo, places like that. Good players, but they weren't on his level. And they were in a tournament in Columbus. So actually, it was an exhibition, not really a tournament, in Columbus, Ohio. And they played Oak Hill. Now, Oak Hill at that time had, again, I'm going to forget the names, 3 guys that went on to play major D1 ball, Kentucky, Arizona, places like that. And then the 7-footer from Desanya Jop ends up being the number 7 pick, I believe, that year by the Cavs as an early entry. So he's playing against 4 potential NBA players. And it's not like he was playing 1-on-4, but that's what it seemed like. And these guys were going someplace. He's a sophomore. And it took 3 trips down the floor. I looked at my buddy and went, this kid's the best player on the floor by far. I mean, by far. And we're talking about a guy that within 3 or 4 months gets drafted by the Cavs in the lottery. You go, this is not fair. He came down 1-on-2, I believe, and Jop was back. He gave him a little shimmy and a little shake and made it look like he was going to go try and dunk on him. He pulled up and drained a 3 like it was nothing at all. I mean, it was otherworldly. And when people say LeBron was a prodigy, yes, he was a prodigy. He did things as a sophomore that you went, wow. He could have come out as a sophomore and made an NBA roster rather easily. I mean, that's how good he was. You know what? I mean, would he have been a lottery pick? Maybe not. But he could have made He could have made a team right then, no problem at all. And so when you make a comparison to anybody to LeBron, and now he's doing it in his late 30s, you make a comparison to anybody with LeBron, and you go, there's nobody that compares to that guy. Just the physical ability and the basketball ability that he had at that age, just scary. So when you say Zion, I mean, I've seen the highlights, but I haven't seen the rest of it. What does he do when the camera's not on? The thing with LeBron that he does all the little things. He plays defense. He gets through screens. He does all the stuff. He knew how to do that then. So, again, back to your original statement, if Karl Malone says you're out of shape and you don't agree, that's fine. But when someone of that caliber has some kind of criticism about your game and what you do, that's what you listen to. Because that's what LeBron did. If someone said something about his game, he wouldn't work on it.
We were talking about Steve Kerr a little bit earlier, and just talking about how some of the guys that we respect their game and their impact on the game. Steve Kerr says he wants KG to mentor James Wiseman. Uh, we've seen what happened, with KG and the last guy that we said, he should mentor, guy we talked about a little while ago. But what do you think? Do you think, first of all, that KG might have mellowed enough to take a young man under his belt? And what do you think about that type of mentorship?
Well, the thing with KG, I think that, again, not to think that I'm inside his head, but I think that he's still one of those. We mentioned Kareem Skyhook. KG is one of those guys that, if top 10, if not top 5, unguardable players in the history of the game. He's able to do things, and they probably aren't easy, but they look easy. So as long as he still thinks that he can, drop 38 at the drop of a bucket, I don't know if he's ready to go into that role yet. But when he is ready to go into that role and extend his career and say, okay, I want to play for another ring and I'm willing to be that guy, James Wiseman, I think, is the perfect person for him. We only got to see him play in college. I saw 2 Memphis games when he played. In the first one, I said, oh my goodness, wow. I mean, it's still mostly potential, but he has a sense of how to play the game. He has a sense of how to get himself in the right spots. He's in a perfect situation. I said that before the draft. I don't care who you're taking number 1. Golden State should take Wiseman at number 2, and they did. So he's in a perfect situation for what he's doing. However, there aren't a lot of bigs that play the way he can potentially play that he can learn from. So, yeah, KG would be a perfect place for him, a perfect mentor for him. He's not going to go to Olajuwon big man camp. He's not that kind of player. I don't know who else there is in the league for him to learn from, But the question is KG ready to do that? And if they can make the package work, because even though I'm loath to talk about it, I don't believe that this experiment here in Brooklyn is going to last that long. Someone's going to want out relatively soon. And if they can swing a deal to get KG back to Oakland, that would be okay. Again, you're waiting on Klay Thompson to reappear again. Andrew Wiggins looks like he's playing some decent ball. I still don't think that they're dead in the water. I think anytime you have Steph Curry on a team, you can get buckets. And if KG says, I'm tired of this potential mess in Brooklyn, bring me back, trade some draft picks, do something, Brooklyn will bite on. I'm not going to badmouth Sean Marks, but most teams will bite on, here's some cash, here's some draft picks, here's some equity for KG. I think they would do it. Now, would KG be willing to do that? That's another story. I think that as long as he still thinks he's a viable player of the year candidate, then no. But after this year, I don't know how it plays out because as we've said, you got the flat Earth guy there. Personalities and potential and results. I just can't see them all sticking around together. And KG would say, let's go back to Golden State where it worked.
Yeah, I mean, to me that would make more sense. But once again, when we start talking about sense, that's something else. Give me 1 minute here. I got to get Don in.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a minute here. Hold on. I'm good. Okay. Let's get the next subject, and I'll see if I can get Don in.
I can kind of vamp on the Robert Horry thing if you want.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. The chemistry of the Clippers. Robert Horry says he's not buying it. What about you?
I agree. It's hard to get to know a quiet person. That's not always a bad thing. It's hard to get to trust a quiet person, talking about Kawhi Leonard. It's not always bad to be quiet, but when you're in a team setting, quiet is all fine and good, but you still have to be able to keep yourself engaged with your teammates. I don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't. And I'm not going to assume that I do. But I do know that if you can't approach a teammate, and then when things go good or bad, and you can't share that with that teammate, then that's when things kind of go bad. Paul George showed last year that he is not going to be the guy who's going to lead the team, which is weird because he did it in Indiana, but he's not doing it here. He's going to need a partner. He's going to have to be Robin to somebody's Batman. Well, Batman has to share, and I don't know if Batman is sharing with them. So then you've got all these other little factions of, what's going on. We let some of our better players go. We brought in people. We let these guys go. We did this. We let Doc Rivers go. We did that. There are so many little things that we were on the cusp last year. At least that's what we thought. And now you reconfigure the team, and we still got to fight the Lakers. And let's be honest, if you're trying to be the Clippers, last year was your year or to be the LA team before they could gel. You're not going to be the LA team now, and you might not be for a while because it looks like LeBron wants to stick around until his kid's in the league, and AD's not going anyplace anytime soon, and you can build around that. So looking at the chemistry issues, like we have to bond together in order to be the best team or the second best team in the West. I'm not even sure we can do that because right now you've got other teams breathing down their neck if they're not already there. Now, Portland losing McCollum hurts, but we saw from Denver last year, they've got a chance to be pretty good. We saw from Utah last year, they have a chance to be pretty good. And I tell you what, that Phoenix team isn't too far away. I wasn't sure the Chris Paul move would work, and I'm not sure if that's what it is, but they've got some potential to be able to breathe down somebody's neck as well. So the idea of the Clippers being at least the second best team. They've got a lot of work to do. And part of that is going to be the way they feel about each other. And if you don't know how you feel about each other, then that's a chemistry problem. So I kind of agree with what Robert Orr is saying. You guys are saying the right things, but you're not doing the right things.
We got a couple of young teams that kind of showed they might have something to do with the West, even if it is from the bottom tiers right now. And I'm talking about Utah, Denver, and Phoenix. Your thoughts?
Well, you've got in each situation, you have two players that can change the game on each team. So in Utah, you're looking to Mitchell and you're looking to Gobert. Now, Gobert signed a big contract. I'm not sure if I would have went there or has been offered because I can't remember if they actually signed it or not. I don't know if I would have went that far to pay him that kind of money, but he's a game changer. He is. And you look at Mitchell, again, you got a game changer. So that's something where they have two guys they can build from. And almost in this world's NBA, you got to have at least two guys you can build on. They're still relatively young, and they can add pieces here and there. You're hoping for a healthy this, a healthy that. How's it going to work out? But they've got at least two guys you can work with. And the same with Utah. Look, I don't know if I'm buying this Jokic as the next, Arvidas Sabonis or whoever he's supposed to be. But he is darn good. And he just doesn't look like he's darn good. Well, we all know that there's a guy named Larry Bird that didn't look all that good either and was able to dominate people. So, the thing that Jokic does is they let him bring the ball up the floor. Now, if I'm playing defense, I'm like, once they give him the ball to bring the ball up the floor, pressure him to make him actually dribble the ball, not just walk it up, make him actually dribble the ball up the floor. But since they don't do that, he's able to walk the ball up the floor and initiate the offense. Then he can do so many other things without really looking like he's trying to. Open three, little basket cut here, nice passing, the ball handling. So anytime you have your best players being unselfish, you've got a chance. And then Phoenix, I was listening to a show maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Some young people, and you know how we are when we get a little bit older, some young people doing a show and they go, these young punks don't know what they're talking about. And they said, Devin Booker is one of the top 5 players to ever play in the NBA. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Devin Booker, he's only been in the league for 3 years at that point. And I really didn't pay attention. Now, I'm not going to say he's one of the top 5 players to ever play in the NBA. I'm not going to say he's one of the top 5 players in the league right now. But Devin Booker can ball. And if you watch the Suns play and you watch Devin Booker play, DeAndre Ayton is not the greatest player to have come out of Arizona, for one thing. But he's a serviceable big man. He can do what he has to do if they understand what he's capable of doing. Don't ask too much of him. Don't ask him to be a distributor or a ball handler. Just let him, get rebounds and dunk. That's fine. Play some defense, you're good. Don't ask more for him than what he's actually capable of doing. If you do that, he's capable of being pretty good. And the Chris Paul move was, well, why would he go there? But that solidifies things. It gives you another guy that's a solid player in the middle of what's going on. So that's not a bad deal either. So there are 3 teams, like you said, that they're not going to overcome the Lakers, but they might catch the Clippers.
Hello, Don. What's going on tonight, my man?
Hey, James. Sorry I'm late. I couldn't get on.
Don't worry about it. You're here. That's all that counts. How did those Texas football games come out?
Well, funny you should ask. I don't know if I got a chance to see it, but Austin Westlake beat the crap out of South Lake Carroll. So that would be Cade Klubnik, 4-star quarterback, taking on Quinn Ewers, a 5-star number 1 recruit for next year, Ohio State commit. Westlake just ran him out the stadium. So and then Katy in the other division, they dominated Cedar Hill. So yeah, Katy and Westlake, that's pretty much the kings of Texas football right now.
Okay. All right. Well, we were talking a little hoops here, and of course, we know things are still a little quiet down your neck of the woods, but we were talking about one of your favorite players, Texas alumni, uh, Kevin Durant. And it seems like their very first game with him and James Harden, they clicked right away. Harden got a triple double, and KD scored a 40 plus, and they got a victory. But the next night, they add Kyrie to the mix. Kyrie scores 37. They lose by 12 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, the worst offense in the league. Not the Cleveland Browns, but the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, what do you think about the big three there, Don? I know it's early, but in the last 4 minutes, it was KD and Kyrie and Kevin. I mean, KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. And they still lost in double overtime. So, what do you think about this chemistry?
Well, again, chemistry is a science, and science involves experimentation. That's true in the lab, it's true on the court. I think it's just a matter of time before they explode. I think Kevin Durant will be the one that'll come together, because when you're talking about Kyrie and you're talking about Harden, you're talking about two different mindsets. I mean, they're two different mindsets, but they're similar, if that makes sense. But their mindset isn't, the Kevin Durant mindset. But on paper they have the talent to win it all. But again, Harden's been in that situation. Harden would score 36, 37 points and still lose by 5. So they need to fix that situation immediately.
Well, this is the third time with him and Harden together. Kyrie, of course, they played once together, I believe, in a dream team setting, but third time a charm, Don. Still the
I don't
Lakers
know.
ahead. It's still the Lakers ahead.
Yeah,
I don't think you can get an NBA championship without coming through Los Angeles.
No, I don't think so either. But the good news is that the Spurs are actually playing a little better. So maybe that can shift over from the East, from LA, and maybe Spurs going to have a say in that.
Well, I mean, the West to me is a whole different beast. Even if they would win in the East, could they beat the number 4 team in the West? Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I see a lot of teams in the West. They might not have the names, but they have the potential. I mean, look at Portland, for instance. The Clippers. As we're talking about. What about the Mavericks? Don't sleep on the Mavericks. I mean,
the Mavericks could explode at any time. I mean, they've got a good crew there. Mark Cuban and his guys have put together a pretty good roster. But again, chemistry.
Yeah, and most of these teams in the West have at least 1 year of chemistry ahead of both of them. Most of them. So, I'm kind of looking to see, winning the East is not going to be that impressive to me.
I think it's just kind of interesting how since we've been doing this show, 4 or 5 years now, and it's interesting how the players that were great in the West, talk about Durant, Kyrie, Harden, they're now in the East. LeBron was in the East. Now he's in the West. So you're having this like transfer of talent. Just kind of interesting to track that.
Yeah, and for somebody that's not, a LeBron fan, just because of sectional differences there, it's like, Texas rooting for Arizona or something, but it's Akron versus Youngstown. I got to vote for my Ohio guys. It's Cleveland versus Cincinnati. I mean that's just the way the rivalry goes, especially when you're talking from college and high school. So it's hey, it's amazing to see, but you just wish it was a guy from your hometown instead of somebody else's. It's, you know. But Don, we were talking about some of the young teams in the West also, and I think I mentioned specifically Denver, Phoenix, and Utah. What's your take on these young teams out of the West? Maybe you know getting a 7 and 8 spot. Not saying that they're going to win, but just showing how there's that mobility in the West much more than in the East.
Well, if you look at, I mean, Utah is actually playing really good basketball right now, and Phoenix is right there behind them. So, these are teams that lack maybe some of the bigger names, but they kind of remind me of Toronto. After Kawhi Leonard left, and Toronto was just this team of guys who just bring their lunch pail to work, and they end up doing pretty good. So teams like that, the Miami Heat, Orlando Magic in the East, they're kind of very similar to that also. I think, of course, Phoenix and Utah are stronger than those teams, but they still have that same aura about them, I guess.
Another thing, going back to old school, Don, all of us here are within 3 or 4 generations of each other. I'll be nice to you guys and make you guys a lot younger than what you are, but that's all right. What do you think, Don? Why isn't the skyhook as an effective weapon in today's NBA when it's indefensible? I mean, nobody found a defense for it when guys were, when Kareem was there. Now you got guys like KD and others that are playing, shooting the three, and there's 6'9", 6'10". But why do you think we got away from using the skyhook? Uh, Frank said it was more out of fashion and out of the speed of the game. What do you think?
There's a lot to that. If you think about going back before, I'm gonna say before 1990, I think the 90s is when it started shifting. But every team had a big man. The Spurs had Artis Gilmore. The Rockets had Akeem. Then the Spurs got, of course, Robinson. Jabbar was there. Everybody had the big man. And the goal was to pass, feed the big guy, let him, hit off the rim the backboard, or do the sky hook. And that was part of their games. If you look at the games back in those days, the scores were usually under 80. Nowadays, you're scoring 95, 100 points or more. I think a lot more emphasis has been put on shooting. I think now we have better shooters than we did back in those days. I mean, I think guys like Curry and these guys, they just, I mean, they call them the Splash Brothers, whatever. And then you got big guys, your 4 guys like go back to Tim Duncan, Durant, who are big. They can play inside and they can shoot. And sometimes they just rather shoot. And so that adds a whole I throw Kawhi Leonard in there also. But yeah, it's just a generational thing. I mean, think about football. When I first started playing football in the 70s, everybody was running the wishbone. And then Coach Osborne at Nebraska said, I'm going to throw in this I formation. I'm going to run some option. That wishbone option, I'm going to put it in the I formation. Osborne was a genius. Then Jimmy Johnson came in. He started doing something. He started throwing it. And now everybody throws it. Mike Leach. Now, I'm getting off the topic. We're talking about basketball, but I'm just saying there's trends in sports. And baseball, in the 70s, baseball to me was mainly a pitcher's game. And all of a sudden, you got guys belting out 60-plus home runs in the season. And so, you can say steroids had something to do with that, and that's true. But, steroids also were used by pitchers, Roger Clemens. But, it's just things are trendy.
Boston just went blank. Our whole Boston, the seaboard. What did you say again? Did you say something about Roger Clemens?
Hey, I love Roger Clemens.
Another thing that you missed a discussion on, Don, something that I told Frank that was very scary to me. Marshawn Lynch on skates. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Now, just think of that though, Don. Marshawn Lynch has enough agility to be on skates, but not enough to pick up 1 yard in the Super Bowl, right?
That's point taken.
Hey, I'm just saying, hey, when you point to things that make you go, let's see. Well, I was hoping that my man, Mr. Rucker, joins us. He's a Steeler fan, and if he doesn't, then we'll certainly get into it. But let's talk about some of the things that's happened since last Sunday. And first, let's start with Mr. Phillip Rivers, the riverboat gambler, the guy that's known to, I don't know what kind of words, his kids heard at home, but, certainly if they used the same words at home, their mouths would be washed out with soap. So we know he didn't lead by example here. But anyway, we're talking about Mr. Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers decides that, after all these seasons with the Chargers, maybe I should have went to the Giants. I might have won one of those Super Bowls. But anyway, we won't talk about that. Anyway, he stayed with the Chargers. Decided he wasn't going to the Giants. Now he spends one season with the Colts, and he says, that's enough. Your thoughts on Phillip Rivers, his career, and how many of you think that he will end up in the Hall of Fame? Don, start with you.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers, I was thinking he might play one more season. I think he's in better shape than Drew Brees, to be honest. I think he still has more zip on the ball. But hey, I hope he invests his money. I read somewhere where he has like 8 kids or 9 kids.
Oh yeah. 9.
So yeah, he got some mouths. He got some mouths to feed, and he needs to move to Texas or Florida when he states that doesn't have a large tax rate. That's what I would do. But I think Phillip Rivers. I'm not the biggest Phillip Rivers fan.
He sold his house here in California, that's for sure. He
sold it.
Yeah, he sold that one. Yeah.
Good move. But I think Phillip Rivers has put up enough stats. Of course, he never made it to the big show, but I think he put up enough stats to be in the Hall of Fame. He's not going to go in the first ballot, but 6-7 years down the line, I can see him making it in. And remember, James, I'm not the biggest Phillip Rivers fan. but I'm going to give the guy his due. I mean, I think he's deserving of that.
His due. I think you might be giving him his overdue, but I'll talk about
Overdue,
that.
well,
I'll talk about that in a minute. Frank, what's your thoughts on Mr. Rivers?
Well, first of all, one thing that he talked a lot of trash, but apparently he never actually swore. So that was the one thing. So his kids learn how to talk trash, but maybe not how to talk trash dirty. So let's look at that for one thing.
hey, Frank, would you trust a guy who doesn't cuss every once in a while? I mean, come on. Sometimes you got to throw in the "fu" or "kiss my ass."
I will say that bleep no. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Especially in football.
Yeah,
Especially in football. You know,
especially
what
you
about
can't talk clean trash. That doesn't work.
what about when that center steps on your foot? Come on, guys.
Off fudge. Off fudge. That's what you said.
Yeah,
It's hard to talk trash without throwing out dirty words. Yeah.
The first 3 times maybe it's all fudge.
But seriously, the thing about Phillip Rivers, great career, but my criteria for the Hall of Fame is basically this. A, were you one of the guys that we went into the season, or this is from this point of view, this is one of the best players at his position in the league. Not one of the top 5, not one of the maybe. It's like you're going to name 2, maybe 3 guys at quarterback in the AFC, and if Phillip Rivers' name jump out at you. I don't think so. And then when you're playing someone, and then on a more individual basis, when you went into Miami, for example, it's like whatever we do, we've got to figure out something about Dan Marino. It wasn't that you had to figure out how to stop the Marx Brothers. It wasn't that you had to figure out how to do this or that. It's like whatever we do, we've got to do something with Dan Marino. And I don't think Phillip Rivers was that guy. I don't think you went into San Diego and said, well, we've got a game plan. If we can keep his receivers from getting open, if we can pressure him and do this, we don't really change our scheme that much to beat Phillip Rivers because we're beating them anyway. He's putting up numbers, but are they winning a lot of games? Well, they were upper tier of the AFC, but they weren't the team we went. And then there's San Diego. We've got to – that wasn't the case. Now, that may have been about the people around him and the coaching and all that. I don't know. But he's not one of the guys where I said, wow. When it's like when you look at Frank Gordon, you go, he rushed for how many yards? I remember saying the same thing about Curtis Martin. Like, huh? Because I never thought of that guy being that guy where you went, LaDainian Tomlinson, yeah, he put up those kind of numbers. And he did it because he was that guy. You knew that he was that guy. When we play the Chargers, we're worried about him. Phillip Rivers, well, he's going to put up his numbers if we try and overload for LaDainian Tomlinson. So not to kick dirt on him, dirt on Phillip Rivers. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. But the Hall of Fame, to me, it's not here, it's here. And I don't think Phillip Rivers was up there.
Yeah.
You can be a very good player, but the Hall of Fame, I think, is reserved for more than just very good.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you on Phillip Rivers. And I've lived out here in San Diego since 2003. But my criteria is how many young quarterbacks do you see wearing his number? I mean, when you go down and how many of the kids that you see for instance, in your sport, Don, I'll bet there's more probably even now Tony Romo numbers in your youth football league than there are Phillip Rivers numbers. When you think of the reputation among the league and among the guys that want to emulate you and your achievements.
And carry that a step further. It's not just in that area. How many kids in Buffalo or Baltimore are wearing Phillip Rivers jerseys?
Right. Well, that's why I
Now,
said the
yeah,
Don. Even you. I mean, you see more Ohio State quarterback numbers than you see Phillip Rivers
right.
numbers.
But it's if you're in San Diego, you may still see a Tom Brady jersey,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but
Oh
you're not in Boston and seeing Phil Rivers jerseys.
yeah. I mean,
There's still people around the world that are wearing Dan Marino jerseys that
yeah.
aren't from Miami.
We have Steeler bars. We have cowboy bars out here in San Diego. I mean, you go there and you don't see that many San Diego Chargers bars. Not even when they were here, in comparison to
Right.
maybe the people that grew up here and stuff like that. But as far as uh, in fact, as a matter of fact, I think that I know at least 3 Green Bay Packer bars here in San Diego. So there are certain teams that just travel well. Go ahead, Don.
Nothing scientific about it, but the three jerseys I see most here in Texas is Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Those are the three you see.
Yeah, yeah.
You would think you'd see some more Deshaun Watson, but you really don't. I mean,
Yeah. No, you. I mean, you'd be surprised even with the different players in Pittsburgh. You do see a lot of T.J. Watt jerseys here. I mean, it's
But
the
I
Watt
think
name is just
right.
synonymous. I think.
I think the point you were making though is outside of their team's area, or I mean, you could see a Randy Moss jersey anywhere.
Right.
You could
Right.
see like I said, Dan Marino jersey any place. Outside of the San Diego, LA area, I doubt that you see a Phil Rivers jersey. That doesn't mean the guy couldn't play, but that kind of has, like you said, Don, that's not an actual barometer of things, but it's kind of what you see. You could see a Ben Roethlisberger jersey on somebody that's in Minnesota, but you're not going to see a Kirk Cousins jersey on somebody in Atlanta, or Michael Vick was a big one. Michael Vick jerseys were big every place.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So, and again, not to say Michael Vick deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, but it's kind of that kind of thing of, I don't know that Philip Rivers just had that kind of career.
Okay, guys. Let's start with you on this one, Frank. Cut them off at the knees. If they hit us one time, we'll take off one kneecap. The second time, we'll take off another kneecap. Frank, what did you think about the new coach of the Detroit Lions and that inspiring speech that he gave?
Wow. Just wow. I mean, and now what do? I mean, that's who you hired. Now, he could have said the same thing without making it sound like that. Now, understand, that's the way football is now. You can't hit him in the head, so you have to hit him in the knees. If you're running a seam route and tight ends, you can't hit him in the head, you got to hit him in the knees. I get that. But what he said and how he said it, and then his background going into that, this is the Detroit Lions need something. Is it a kick in the butt? I don't know. They need something. They need to reboot that system. But is that the way you want to go about it? Is that your opening statement? Woo! I'll go back to the best opening statement that I've ever heard. I'm going to go back to college football. When Ohio State hired Jim Tressel out of Youngstown State, and very few people knew who he was. And this is Ohio State. This isn't, Akron. This is Ohio State. You had to bring in a game changer. And he walked in during a basketball game where they introduced him, and he said, "You'll be proud of our men and women on the classroom and on the field, blah, blah, blah. And 313 days when we go up to Michigan and win," or however he phrased it. He set a tone. That's what they were about. That's what you do in that opening press conference, that opening statement. Now, he backed it up, which if he hadn't backed it up, it would look pretty foolish. But I don't know how Campbell where can you go from here? You can't backtrack. You can't say, well, I didn't mean what I said, or I did. Where do you go?
Don, what do you think about the opening speech of the Lions' new coach? And most of all, does he have the personnel to execute?
Well, that too.
Well, a lot of that's mental. Sometimes people back
Ain't that
themselves.
much? Ain't that much mentality in Detroit? But anyway, go.
Sometimes people back themselves in a corner to motivate. I'm going to give you a little example out of history. Okay, in 1519, a guy named Hernan Cortez sailed to Mexico with about 200 Spanish troops. And he landed at Veracruz, and he burned the ships. There is no going back. In front of him was, probably 600,000 Aztec warriors, and he conquered Mexico within 2 years. Now, that's not football, but he set the tone when he burned the ships. He said, "We ain't going back to Cuba. We're not going back to Spain. We're going to die here, and conquer or die." That's what he did at Detroit. He said, "We're going to conquer. We're not going to die and get fired, but I mean, that's the coaching equivalent of dying is getting fired." So, some people they talk trash. That we've seen it in athletics where people will talk trash. Sometimes they can back it up. Sometimes they can't. I think Muhammad Ali was probably the ultimate. I can talk it. I can do it. Mike Tyson was that way. Larry Bird. One of the best stories I ever heard about Larry Bird was during All-Star Week. People out there getting ready for the 3-point shootout. He gets on the court and says, "I'm just seeing who's going to be in second place." I mean, Larry Bird was an underrated trash talker. But it's different people are motivated by different things, and if that's the way you want to do it, that's what you do.
So, again, I got to ask, where's those personnel coming from? I know Detroit has, they have some room under the cap, but I don't know if they got that much, especially on defense. I mean,
what he's done, and to carry on what Don said, he has laid down the gauntlet not only to himself and his team, but to the front office as well. You guys aren't doing your job either, so you need to make sure that you do what you have to do in order to back up what my mouth just said, because you've got to be able to cash the check that my mouth just wrote. So he's putting the onus on them as well. I'm not going to be the milquetoast guy that's just going to get run out of town. I'm here to win. And if we don't win, it's either we didn't put forth the effort, we didn't play hard enough, we didn't do whatever we had to do, or somebody else didn't do their job. So the front office is going to have to say, and Chris Spielman is going to have to be a big part of that. And Chris Spielman is a tough dude. We're going to, not sleep at night. We're going to do what we have to do to turn over every rock, every stone. Now we've got to supply this guy with guys that can play. So
I know this is kind of going off the path that I chose, but Don, I got to ask you, when you look at the coaching tree, and we've talked about Bill Belichick many times, and you look at what his assistants have done since they left New England, then you look at Andy Reid, and you look at what his assistants have done since they left his coaching staff. I believe 2 of them are playing each other in the national conference, 2 of his assistants. And Matt Patricia gets rode out of town on the rail. But anyway, Don, what do you think is the difference there? Certainly Belichick has won more Super Bowls than Andy, but when you kind of look at him on that level, what do you think?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was Ranger, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ranger. Hey, he's going to start barking at me in a minute. But yeah, going back to that, the more I'm thinking about, Belichick, all those years had Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is thriving in Tampa Bay as we're talking about this. So I think Belichick's a great coach, and I mean his record stands for itself. But he ain't the only coach. Reed's a great coach, and whenever you get in coaching, and I coached for 20 years, you have a personality, and you take that personality that you've acquired from your mentors. In my case, my dad was a coach. I learned a lot from my dad. I learned a lot from my high school coach. And you take a little piece of everything and you form your own personality. And that personality has to mesh with the players that you're working with. And you have to transfer your personality to them. Your motivation, your X's and O's. It has to gel with your players. And I think some coaches are better at that than others. And probably Andy Reid has, transferred some of his knowledge maybe a little more effectively. I don't know. There's probably a whole plethora of reasons. If you think about college and look at Nick Saban's assistants, how they've fared out. I think Kirby Smart's probably the one that's done the best of the Nick Saban assistants. We'll see what Sarkisian does at Texas. It's looking good so far, but I mean, I hadn't played a game yet. But I think those are all valid comparisons.
What do you think, Frank? You have a coaching background also. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say there are two types of coaches. There's more than two. But, Don, I think you'll understand this. You may not agree, but you understand it. There is the head coach who is the head coach. And then he's got a bunch of other people to fill out the jobs. So he's got his hands in a lot of things. He makes the final decisions on everything. And he's going to say, now, here are the plays you're going to call. Here's the way we're going to run practice. Here are all the things we're going to do. Comes directly from the top. So the other guys are underlings. They're not part of the decision-making process. Then you have the coach that's like, all right, I'm the head guy, but I've got 13 other co-head coaches or assistant head coaches that, okay, you're going to run the offense. Just let me know how it's going. You're going to make these kind of decisions. You're going to be able to do these kind of things. You're going to talk to the press as well. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to be part of recruiting or whatever. And so you're learning how to be a head coach. I've worked under both. I've been hopefully the latter instead of the other one. But I've worked under both where it's like, okay, I had one guy tell me, just keep coming up with ideas. I may not accept everything, but I may accept one. And that may be the one that gets us over the top. Keep thinking about how we get better. Keep trying to think about it as if you are me, but understand I'm the one that makes the final decision. And I've had other ones just go shut up and pick up balls and go sweep the floor. You're just part of, if I didn't have to have another person here, I wouldn't have you. And I'm not saying that Belichick is like that, but you can kind of see that's part of his personality. That it's like, I want to do things my way, and I'm not really mentoring you. Some of this may rub off on you, but when it's time to run your own ship, you really don't know how to do it yet. So you're out there floundering, and you're trying to figure it out. And as Don, you said, chemistry is by experimentation. So is the learning process. And you're trying to figure out something at that level you should already know. So, Andy Reid's part, it's like, you may not call the plays, we have input on what we do. You may not bring in the players, we have input on what we do. Again, I don't know this for a fact, but it just seems to be that's the way it is. So when those guys go out on their own, they've already made some of those decisions. They've already done some of that stuff. So they're prepared to step into the job and do the job as opposed to it being OJT.
Yeah, I remember growing up with my dad, and every year they would have a coaches convention called Coaching School in Texas, to alternate between Dallas and Houston. And my dad took me, and I was about 10 years old. And they always had lectures you had to go attend. And I remember a guy named Eddie Robinson from Grambling. He gave a lecture on what made him successful. First thing he said is, you have to have a system that you live with, die with, breathe with. He said it could be, running the wing T, it could be running the I, it could be running the wishbone, but you have a system. Your defense, it can be a 4-3, split 6. It could be any of these. He said, but you got to have a system. Second thing he said, and this stood with me, he said, you have to build a staff of people that you trust.
Right.
Have a system, people you trust. And then the third thing he says, the players that you recruit are a reflection of you. They should have great character. And
my dad was my coach for Little League Baseball. And he was the assistant coach, but he might as well have been the co-coach. And that's kind of where I learned that from. And on the ride home, we would talk about, nothing major, but okay, what did we learn in practice today? You only got 2 practices a week, but what did we learn? Well, I think we worked on, where the cutoff man goes. Yeah, okay. Why did we do that? So we learned the fundamentals. Okay. And he said, so what did you learn? I said, well, as a first baseman, my job is to do this, blah, 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 blah. I said, where's the shortstop go? I said, well, I don't know. You have to know what everybody does, because that's important. Because maybe you have to play that spot, or maybe someone's in the wrong spot. You have to help them get there. And you may start to see things that I don't see because I'm busy with something else. And when you're teaching your assistant coaches, that's what you're getting them to do. See stuff that I may not see and be able to correct things the way you think I would correct them, but also have that creativity to do it your own way. And I don't know, again, I don't know this, but I can't see Bill Belichick saying, okay, do that. Just go over there and run that part of practice. Have you ever run practice without Belichick around? Unless he's sick, maybe not. But I bet Andy Reid's like, yeah, I'm going to go over here and do stuff. You guys take care of business. And even if it's only once or twice a season, that sticks in your head. And now when you're ready to run your own program, you have an idea of how to do it.
Yeah. Well, hey, good to hear from some guys that have actually coached and played on higher levels. The Eagles have also decided that they were going to make a head coaching hire. Let's first talk about who they hired, and then is the Eagles. I mean, no cliche. If you get a job in the NFL, it's a good job. But when you look at the restrictions, kind of like the Jets, everything goes through the front office. You have very little input. You're, I guess, as you said, Frank, you're an assistant. You're not really a part of the process. What do you think about this hire? And what do you think about the fact that the one guy that was actually interviewed decided that rather than take the Eagles job, did he take the Jets job? Who was it? Well, anyway, he decided that he didn't want to have anything to do with the Eagles, just like Bieniemy and a few other coaches. They wouldn't even take an interview with the Eagles. But what do you think about the hire and the input of the front office? Don?
Well,
let's start with Don.
Well,
Since they're in the division with the Cowboys,
yeah. The one thing that is certain, and of course, the NFC East is god awful, but there needed to be a change in Philadelphia. They it's been coming, I think, for the last 2 years, and if I'm not sure that the Eagles hired the right guy, Sirianni, I think I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of maybe not an experiment, but he's I think he has the knowledge, X's and O's. He's has not been as experienced as some of the other guys whose names came out. He has some big shoes to fill. But I think overall, I think it's a good hire. It may not be the most popular hire. I know, those fans in Philly, they're atrocious. I mean, they can be brutal. I mean, they threw snowballs at Santa Claus a few years ago, and when Michael Irvin practically broke his neck, they cheered. So that's a tough crowd. That's a very tough crowd.
There's a jail in the bottom of the stadium.
Yes,
Right.
Okay.
exactly.
An actual jail. Okay. Not a little detention center. A jail. Okay.
Yeah, and so I go to all these great stadiums in Texas. There's no jail. There's a broom closet that there's a policeman in that if he's needed, but you don't build a jail in the stadium.
You go stand over there. I'll be back in 10 minutes, right?
And what gets me about that is when they built the stadium, someone said, "We're going to put the jail."
No, this design's all wrong. You need to put a jail in here, right?
Yeah. So he's got his work cut for him, but hopefully they win, not against the Cowboys, but hopefully they'll beat everybody else.
Well, Frank, I'm looking at this as a situation where the front office has had enough pushback, and this is a hire where they're saying, this is a safe hire for the front office. This has very little to do with X's and O's, as far as I'm concerned. I might be wrong, but what's your take on that?
Well, kind of piggyback on what Don said earlier, the coach has to build through character, or what Eddie Robinson said. You have to have character in place. And the people that decided not to interview for this job may have thought, it's a two-way street. You want the job, but you want to make sure you have a job where they're going to allow you to be able to do the job. And if you say, there's no chance of us being able to be successful here because of what I see from the outside, the character and those things, and you got a jail in the stadium, all those things, I'm not taking that job. Now, I can understand that, but I can also go from personal experience that I had a chance to interview for a job for a basketball position where the team that I was interviewing with, they had won in a 20-game season. They won one game the year before. I scouted them, and literally they threw more balls into the stands than they had shot attempts in the first half. That's how bad they were. And my ego said, I can turn it around. I can do better than that. Can't do much worse. So I understand the process of, I'm going to go in and get this done. I also understand the process of saying, there's no way anyone can get this job done. So I understand both sides of that. Now, from the front office point of view, I kind of go down this. It's like, we're going to bring in somebody we can control. We can't control the guy who is number one on everybody's list. We're going to bring in the guy that's going to be happy to have a head coach job, who's not going to cause waves, who's going to say, well, I'm just happy to have the job. Okay, guys, what are you going to give me? He's not going to complain if they trade Carson Wentz. He's not going to complain if they keep Carson Wentz. He's going to do with whatever they tell him to do because that's who he is. Now, also part of that is he comes from Indianapolis. And Indianapolis had success with bringing in Frank Reich, who no one wanted to bring in as their top guy when he came in. Now, Frank Wright has some cachet as a quarterback in the league, but as an assistant, not really. So it's like you took a chance on him, and you learned from that guy. So maybe you have some of that gold dust is going to rub off on you. However you put it, it doesn't look like a good situation for Philadelphia because they weren't able to attract maybe the guy, and maybe the guy didn't want to go there. Now, having said all of that, the guy they get may turn out to be a diamond in the rough. You just don't know.
Okay, Eric Bieniemy turned down the Chargers job, and it turns out that Staley has taken the Chargers job as head coach. What do you think about that hire, Frank? And what do you think are the odds of him being successful here? Well, with the Chargers, someone, well, with a front office that hires good personnel, but the personnel never seem to find that team chemistry. What do you think about the Chargers head coaching job?
Well, I look at it this way. If I go into that job and I'm thinking one thing, I may have the ascendant quarterback in the league for the next 10 years. Does that guarantee success? It sure doesn't hurt. I may have a guy that could be the best quarterback in the league for the next 10 years, or pretty darn close to it. Because remember, right now, you've got a lot of the guys in the AFC that are young guys. He could be better than them, better than Lamar, better than Mayfield. He can be better than those guys. Maybe not better than Mahomes, but he can be pretty close. And that's saying something. If you've got a quarterback-driven league, which it is, and you take that position and you can work around that, that's great. Now you have to do is worry about the other stuff. And anyone will say right now in the NFL, if you don't have to worry about the quarterback position, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. Now you have to worry about, does he get hurt? Does he have a sophomore slump? Does this happen? Does that happen? But if you have the quarterback position locked up, that's a sweet deal. So that would be a position you jumped on, which kind of goes back to the Philly position. You go, and we're not sure about Carson Wentz.
Don, your thoughts on the Chargers, the new hire, and the team?
Well, I understand why Bieniemy would turn that down, but I'm sure he has his reasons. Maybe he's waiting for something bigger. But the Chargers, that's another team that, going back to all the way back to Dan Fouts, they were always, competing, but they would always fall short.
Great individuals. No
yeah,
team.
they threw that ball around like no one. The Joyner and Winslow, those guys. Man, I don't remember them playing really good defense for some reason, but I remember them throwing football.
Wonder why that is.
If you think about it, they had Drew Brees and they let him go, and he reinvented himself in New Orleans, and that's just one of those franchises that you keep thinking one day they're going to strike oil and it'll be great, but they're going to have to wait a while. But I'm sure that maybe this new hire will bring in some new blood and maybe a different philosophy. We'll see.
Okay, guys, I got to get down to the nitty gritty here, and we're definitely going to have to start talking about my favorite team, the Steelers. Well, I had said once before, I predicted one and done. Fortunately, that didn't even happen, but we came close. We gave up 35 points in the first half. Second half, hey, we did the best. But anyway, there seems to be two schools And I find it's almost interesting that they're separated by the Mississippi River. Most people back east think that it's Mike Tomlin's fault and that Big Ben should stay. Now, most people on the West Coast, myself included, I think that Mike Tomlin should stay, but I think that Big Ben should retire. Um, or if not retire, because he does have another year left, at least start mentoring someone to take his place. Now, I'm not excited by the Dwayne Haskins signing, but I can understand where it comes from. And especially when you look at the financial obligations that the Steelers have to meet, the salary cap and so forth. So, Frank, what's your thoughts of the Steelers? We have they're talking that some of the players are willing to restructure their contract. Your thoughts? Is it the head coach or is it the quarterback?
Well, for one thing, and now I'm on the West Coast as well, so I'm going to side with Mike Tomlin. Maybe if I were back east again, I may look a different way. I'm going to side with Mike Tomlin, but with a caveat. There comes a time, even though this statement makes no sense to me at all, but has been proven time and time again, there comes a time, no matter who the coach is, the players stop listening. Because now it's a shtick instead of actually being a foundation of what you do. And Mike Tomlin says the right things, does the right things, and it seems to me like they're going, we hear this all the time. He keeps saying the same old BS. I'm tired of listening to him. Because the teams that he had before, when you're looking at the Hines Wards and the Palomalus and those guys, when those guys were playing on the team, you're going, they're buying into this stuff. Now, part of it was grandfathered in from Cowher. I get that. But they're buying into what he's saying. You know, he says there's a brick wall, and they're going, how many pieces you want that in, coach? We're going to run through it. Well, right now it looks like they're going, you know what? You're not even on social media, coach. I have no idea what you're talking about. You know, you're throwing all this BS at me that I didn't get in college. I didn't get from home. Just let me play football and dance on the emblem and do whatever I want to do. So I don't think they're listening to him, which I find hard to believe because he's saying good stuff. But I find it hard to believe. Now, the Big Ben part of it, yeah, he wasn't good. You know, he wasn't good. I shouldn't say it. He wasn't the Big Ben that he needed to be, that he'd been before. Of course, he's 103 years old. What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean,
you know, you can't expect him to be, you know, he got old. He's still hurt. He's still banged up. He can't, I mean, when did you ever think that Roethlisberger is going to get rid of the ball in under 2 seconds? It's like he stayed back. He stood back there, surveyed the field, dared people to knock you down, waited for guys to break open, and threw lasers. Now it's like, snap, get rid of the ball. I don't care who's open, where they are. I'm getting rid of the ball before I get hurt or hit. Not hurt, hit. Not saying he's gun shy, but he changed the way he played, and it's not necessarily good for him. You know, I'm not saying he's afraid. I'm just saying that he changed his style of play. And as Don said earlier, you establish a style of what you're going to do, and now that's not him. And now he's just some other run-of-the-mill, you know, 155-pound quarterback that gets rid of the ball at the drop of a dime, and that's not what he does. Now, the Haskins thing, that's like you just reached under your car seat and found a scratch-off that you didn't know was there. You're not going to throw it away. You're going to scratch it off and see if it wins. If it wins, great. If it doesn't, then you throw it away. And that's what I think. You got first-round talent with, you know, again, I didn't hear people say anything bad about him at Ohio State when he was there. You know, it wasn't the, you know, this guy's so great, I hope he marries my daughter one day. But I didn't hear that he was acting a fool either. So you don't know. Maybe going back to Maryland to play wasn't good for him. Who knows? we forget that these guys are, 22, 24 years old. You give me all that money and the keys to a franchise when I was 22 years old. Oh, please. There's no telling what danger I could have done. There's just no way. So you don't know how it's going to work out. So this is a perfect opportunity for either Ben to mentor him or just to step in the situation and say, this is probably my last chance. And someone needs to tell him that. That's what a Mike Tomlin would do. It's like, dude, we brought you in here to do one thing. That's it. You mess this up, you're done. And could I see him being the face of the franchise, or at least the quarterback of the franchise 10 years from now? It's altogether possible. Could I see him being gone by training camp? Yeah, that's possible too.
What do you think, Don? This is my team here, and I'm kind of worried. Big Ben is like a statue now. I mean, he can't move. He can't throw anybody off of him anymore. I mean, hey, it happens when you get old. I mean, that's just a matter of fact. That's nothing against Big Ben. He's just getting older, as every other quarterback in the league. So, Don, what do you think? Head coach, quarterback, signing Haskins? I mean, Don, I'm kind of confused. 20-year-old going to a strip club, a 20-year-old with money going to a strip. I mean, I understand it's COVID, but hey, he's not as bad as what was my man that was in the bubble? He invited come on up, girl, baby. Hey, COVID and all. It don't make no. I mean, so
I just went to the strip club to get something to eat.
Yeah, so, hey, goes back to like I said, here in California, that's how they got the restaurants open. It had to be Cheetah and another strip club that actually brought the lawsuit for them to open back up to be able to serve food. So hey, I guess everybody goes to the strip club to eat dinner now. Yeah, things change, and Don, we're getting old, But anyway, what do you think, Don? I mean, what's
be the fifth on the strip clubs. I'm going to make an analogy, and it'll make sense to us who've been married. When you're married, you have the honeymoon period, like coaching. When you're married, I love you. You get affirmations. The sex is great. The food is great. You travel. And then they have what they call the 7-year itch where, well, okay, I've been waking up to this woman 365 days a year for 6 years, and now year 7. I'm going to try something over here my neighbor's serving up or someone I'm working with at school. It happens. Coaching, same way. Like Frank was saying, after you've been there a while, they're not listening to you. You got to keep it fresh. You got to keep it. You got to keep that spark going. Coaching's like being in a marriage. Happened at UT. Mac Brown, came in 1998, had a national championship by 2005, played for another one in 2009, and then he got kind of lazy, and he fell off. He started losing to Oklahoma, and other teams started doing it. He got fired. He takes a few years off, goes up to North Carolina. All of a sudden, North Carolina is a contender again. And so I think if Tomlin were to take, let's say, that San Diego job, I guarantee you San Diego would be a winner. Detroit, we talk about how Detroit doesn't have anything. Tomlin would make them a winner. How long can he maintain it? I don't know. But like I said, I think Tomlin is one of these guys that could use a fresh beginning.
On both ends, yeah, both sides. Well, and it's kind of like if you're coaching high school, you get a kid that comes in, if you're the high school coach that comes in as a freshman. Now, you discount that year because you're usually scared of everybody, especially you. And then they start hearing what you've got to say. By the time they're a senior, they're going to run through that brick wall for you.
Yeah.
Then you get another set of people after that and they haven't heard your stick. They haven't heard that, unless it's somebody's little brother or their cousin, and you left them in the locker room, which is why I never let anybody else in the locker room other than the team. It's like, okay, you're not going to know what we're talking about. So they're going to hear it. So a high school coach can last 20, 30 years because it's always fresh to that next group. College coach, kind of the same way, but again, like you said, you've got all the reporting, all the media and all that stuff, and now you said the same thing in the same press conference over and over and over again, and now it's the same thing. Now, in the pros, if you're a coach that's been there 12 years, you may have somebody that's heard everything you've had to say, and they've been there all 12 years with you. And then the rookies come in, and they hear it, and they talk to the veterans, and they're like, man, I just wish he would shut up, and I just don't want to hear that mess anymore. And like you said, going to San Diego or going to Detroit or someplace else might be a great move for him, for both sides.
It reminds me of the press conference this year Tom Herman had at UT, and he lost a close one at Iowa State, and he said, winning's hard. And I'm thinking, can you imagine Nick Saban or Urban Meyer saying winning is hard? Winning's just what we do. We don't lose.
Right.
But it's that whole mindset, and it's crazy.
I'm glad you said that name, Urban Meyer. Urban has hired his offensive coordinator in Jacksonville, and we've kind of talked about Urban Meyer's mindset. Maybe it was the wife and the kids just told him, look, we don't care where you want to go, but you got to get the hell out of here. We know how Urban is when he's not coaching. So Urban's had nothing but success wherever he's went. I kind of fear that streak is going to be in jeopardy in this new job. Don, is Urban the one to turn this program around?
That's a very good question. Urban, the only coach I can think of, and there might be a few from way back then, but the only coach I can think of that made that successful transition from college to pro is Pete Carroll. Nick Saban, he couldn't transition to the pros. I don't know if Urban Meyer will or not. Urban's been out of the game for 2-3 years now, and so
didn't Jimmy make that? Didn't Jimmy?
Yeah,
make
yeah,
that
Jimmy. Yes, you're right. Thank you. I knew I was missing somebody.
He was on a pro team in college, though. So
what's that?
I said he was on a pro team in college, though. So
that's true. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was with a bunch of scrubs, but I'm just saying, he did make that transition. But go ahead, Don.
There's a joke. There's a joke that Michael Irvin would say. He said that, yeah, I took a pay cut when I signed with the Cowboys. But so Jimmy Johnson, Pete Carroll, they made that jump between college and pro. Urban's been out for a while. Recruiting kids and then is different than having a general manager say, this is your team. How much say is he going to have and who he drafts and stuff. So there's a lot of details that NFL coaches have to deal with that college coaches don't. I think Urban is capable of being successful in the NFL, but it's just one of those we got to wait and see what happens.
Frank?
Well, this is the thing where we were talking about earlier. Are you a head coach that fosters other people being involved, or are you the, lack of a better term, dictator? When he was at Bowling Green, he got the job and said, we're going to be relevant in the MAC, and we're going to be relevant as wherever we can go. And he spearheaded that. I can't think of any other coaches that he had at Bowling Green that are coaching any place else as a head coach now. I could be wrong about that. Ohio State guys fact check that one for me, but I don't know. He goes to Utah. It's the same thing. We've got this Alex Smith guy, and we're going to ride on this offense where our quarterback is really a running back. If he passes the ball, that's all fine and good. He parlayed that into Florida. And again, someone fact check this for me because I don't know. I can't think of anybody on the staff at Florida that went on to do anything great as far as the coach is concerned. And he said, we've got Chris Leak, but I got this Tebow kid that can run the ball. We're going to change the way we do things. I don't care how they did it beforehand, the old ball coach or whatever, we're going to have a quarterback that runs the ball. He goes to Ohio State. And with the exception of the year when he had guys getting hurt and Cardell Jones came in and went crazy, his concept was to throw the ball. And we'll throw the Haskins season out of that because that was kind of out of necessity. I don't really know if it was out of necessity. It's kind of happened that way. But the idea is the quarterback is going to run the ball. That's why they brought in Tate Martell from here in Vegas, and that was the plan, and he just didn't pan out, and we see where he's gone from there. But that was the idea, and that was kind of why Joe Burrow didn't get the job as well, because he wasn't a quote-unquote running quarterback. Other things involved in that as well. But the idea of we're going to go to the NFL, and now it's kind of the norm, or at least more accepted, that we have running quarterbacks. So who are we going to get? Do you bring in Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. And as Don said, Marty Hurney's your GM. It's not Urban Meyer. It's Marty Hurney. But what do you do with that? How do I get the players? Who comes in? What do I have? How do I build a team when I didn't, as Bill Parcells didn't shop for the groceries? I don't know if he's wired that way. He hasn't seemed to be wired that way before, so I don't know if he's going to be wired that way now. I don't know how it's going to work out. I know he's going to bust his butt, and I know that he's going to be more successful than they've been, but my question is always going to be, how long does he burn a candle and the flame goes out? Because it's happened twice already in the last decade or last decade and a half. Will it last? Will he be able to keep going again? And the way he pushes and the way he strives and what he tries to do, he might burn out really quick. And that you can't do that in the NFL. So I don't know. I wish him well, but I just don't see great things happening.
All right, guys. Well, let's break down these Sunday games. Let's start with the AFC. And I'm going to assume, since he practiced today, that Patrick Mahomes is going to be out of the protocol. So let's start at the quarterback position. Frank, Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. I'm sorry. Wow. I'm thinking of the old days of the Buffalo Bills. Wow.
If any other time in the history of the world you would ask this question, this is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But if you ask this question within the last 2 weeks, it may be a toss-up. I think Mahomes is otherworldly. He's an alien. He does things that other people can't do. But Josh Allen is willing this team to do things that they may not be good enough to do, yet they do them easily. If Mahomes isn't 100%, it could be edge to Josh Allen. Now, you would say 80% of Mahomes is better than anybody else? Yes. But I don't know. Unless Mahomes is 90%, I say it's a toss-up, which I never would have thought I ever would have said before.
Don?
I think of the games coming up, that's probably the one that's going to be the closest. I think the NFC is going to be close too, but this game is going to be, that Buffalo defense versus that Kansas City offense. I think Mahomes finds a way to win, but there's going to be a scrapper. There's going to be blood and snot flying.
Okay, Don, let's go to offensive lines. Buffalo or Kansas City?
I'm going to give a slight edge to Kansas City on offensive line.
Frank?
I'm going to go the other way. Because they keep I almost said Kelly as well. Alan Clean more often than he doesn't have to be that scrambling daredevil. He can pick and choose his spots. Whereas Mahomes, I think this is going to come out wrong, but because he's such a magician back there, I don't think that the offensive line plays as well as they can. They can miss a block, and he can still step, slide, sidearm, and get something done. So I just think that they don't always perform at their top level, whereas I think the Bills know we have to do the best job we can. We keep our quarterback clean, he's going to get the job done.
Running backs, Frank, even though we know, Singletary is listed as the main man, they still have the young kid, Zach Moss. Chiefs, they kind of do the running back by committee also. They don't really have somebody that stood out. Le'Veon Bell didn't stand out in the last playoff game. You can't really think of one back that did. I think, we'll get to that later on. Who you got there in the running back advantage, Frank?
Well, I don't know how healthy Zach Moss is, and I think that's the key. They don't seem to run it all that much. Actually, neither team really does. They don't really have to. That may be more of a weather thing than anything else. Do we have to slog through it? But I give that, this could be the Le'Veon Bell breakout game. I don't know if it's going to come or when it's going to come, but it could come here. So I give the edge to the Chiefs on that one.
I actually thought the Le'Veon Bell breakout game was going to be the play last week, but
so did I.
Didn't quite turn out that way. Don Hayes, what do you think about the running back? Both teams kind of use running back by committee. What's your thoughts?
Well, in that committee, you have a guy named Tyreek Hill, who's he does little. He's come out as been Eric Metcalf with my teammates back at Texas. So just because I've had experience with Tyreek Hill, he played Oklahoma State with my nephew. I've seen him do damage. I'm going to give a slight edge to Kansas City in the running back department. You take away Tyreek Hill, I'm probably go Buffalo. But
that's a very good point, though.
Well, I actually put Tyreek Hill in the wide receiver slot there, Don, which I'm going to get to next because I had Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver, and I kind of also included Kelsey in that package as skilled receivers versus when you go to look at Buffalo. You got what's the other kid? I can't think of the second. You got Diggs and who's the other
Beasley,
kid?
Beasley.
Yeah, Cole Beasley. But Beasley was out last game, so we're not sure how long whether Beasley's going to be ready for the game or not. But Don, shifting Tyreek to the wide receiver position. Who do you think is best equipped in wide receivers here? You got Diggs. Hey, since he came over from Minnesota, he's caught everything except the cold. So what do you think?
Well, again, Tyreek being the versatile guy he is, when you talk about receivers, you think about the guy who's actually throwing to him. And again, I'm going to give the slight edge to Kansas City.
Frank?
Same thing. And both quarterbacks, even though you have studs, whether it be Kelsey or Diggs, it's hard to say they don't favor them when they catch over 100 balls, but they go to whoever's open. And I'm consistently amazed during a big drive when Mahomes is throwing the ball to guys named Robinson and Richardson or whoever. You're like, I don't remember this guy being on the team. And there he goes 2 times to him, and they pick up a chunk and a third down. You're like, what? Who's that guy? So he doesn't care who he throws to. He throws to who's open. And I think Allen's the same way. But as Don said, I give the edge to the Chiefs.
The defense, and I want you to evaluate the defense on 2 criteria. Frank, first is the personnel, and the second is the coordinator.
Well, you've got 2 different ways of looking at things. I think the Bills want to be that stout, we're going to slobber knock you, beat you up kind of defense. And I think that's partly the personnel, other than maybe Ed Oliver. That's kind of their personnel, how they do things. And the coordinator has that kind of, we're going to be stout and we're going to be, strong. The Chiefs, on the other hand, I think their best player now is the Honey Badger. So they go and do what they've got to do, and they deploy him and where they have to put him. And they're more, because they know they can score when they need to score, they're more of a risk-taking kind of defense. So like a Chris Jones is going to say, well, I'm going to put pressure up here. I'm going to do that. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to do it. And we always have the playmaker behind us just in case. So, the edge goes to the Chiefs because in a game like this, one little mistake can be a pick six, a scoop and score, a strip sack. You never know. And I think they're more equipped to do things that big than I think Buffalo is.
Don, what do you think here? The defense, and like I said, we're looking at it from two perspectives: the personnel that are on the field and the coordinator that puts them in the places.
I'm going to go edge to Buffalo.
Okay. Why do you Jesse? You say you just like them cold weather boys a little bit different, huh? But Kansas City's cold too. I don't know if anybody. That's I think the kind of difference in this game. Both teams are used to the cold weather, and I don't know if it would have made that much difference where this game was being played. Neither one of them was going to be warm, so it didn't really make any difference. Unlike Tampa Bay, if they win, they'll be the first Super Bowl team to ever have a home game. But Don, let's start with the NFC here, and we're going to go the same way. So, Brady or Rodgers?
Wow. Let me say this. I think that right now, and very, very slight, I think Aaron Rodgers is playing a little bit better than Tom Brady. But Tom Brady keeps getting a little bit better each game. I mean, they from where they started to where they are now, I think Tom Brady has, again, we talk about that word chemistry. He's a new guy. Tampa Bay, they're finally catching on. And I think Tampa Bay is starting to peak. I don't know how much better Green Bay is going to get. Green Bay might have reached that ceiling. I'm not sure. But I got to go with those rings. So I go with Brady.
Oh, okay. Frank, we do have Brady there. When he first got there, we were talking about, everything he throws over 30 yards looks like a duck. It's flopping all over the place. He can't throw the ball no more. You can't throw that deep ball no more. Things have kind of changed. We got Aaron Rodgers. He's dancing in practice now. So, Frank, who you got? Brady or Breeze? Brady or Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
For one simple thing. Tom Brady's making all the throws he has to make within the structure of the offense, which is what you want him to do. But if the play breaks down, and he's got to dance a little bit, he's got to take 3 steps outside the pocket, then you're not sure what's going to happen. More than likely, he's going to make the right call and throw the ball away, but can he get to the spot to where he's able to throw the ball away? So we notice if he gets pressured, again, you may get a strip, you may get something that happens, a ball batted down, whatever happens. It's just the possibility of a mistake happening, not necessarily because of him, but because of the lack of mobility and the fact that he's playing within structure. Aaron Rodgers, we know games like this, something happens. Good, bad, whatever. Something unscripted happens, and Aaron Rodgers can make a play in an unscripted situation that Tom Brady can't. He can also make a turnover in an unscripted situation as well. But I think that there's going to be enough that happens where
Next, partly
Aaron
cloudy
Rodgers
skies,
makes the play.
snow, and some cloudy skies in Green Bay, Wisconsin for the next 7 days. Daytime temperatures will start around 18 degrees and will head up to 28 with up.
I'm sorry.
You was getting that weather forecast, huh, Don?
I was Green Bay.
28 degrees.
Highs will be 28.
Yeah,
Low
that's
18.
they were talking about that today on Fox News. That 28 degrees, 28 degrees. When you talk about Green Bay, it doesn't even sound cold, but we'll get into that a little bit later too. Frank,
can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah,
you just mentioned playing with Eric Metcalf. Where's Eric from?
Eric, he went to high school in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
He's from Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C.
Okay. And he played with the Browns.
Yeah, right? He did. Yeah.
So, and I remember he was a great player. But you don't necessarily, and I don't know, was Terry from the D.C. area as well? And then playing with St. Louis, right?
But yeah, he played in St. Louis. I don't know where he was from originally. I might have to Google it, but he might have had roots in the D.C. area because that's where his son went.
Okay. My point is, if you went to Texas or you play in Tampa Bay, you may have played college in Wisconsin. When we mention the weather factor, I don't think that makes a difference. Plus, you're playing to go to the Super Bowl, so who really cares? But you might have grown up in Wisconsin. You're playing in Miami.
We're going to talk about that at the end when it comes to
All right. Okay.
that.
Sorry about that.
Frank, O-line, the Bucks or Green Bay?
Ooh. I think the way they're pointing out, the Bucks, because I think for the most part, Brady's been able to stand back there and make the plays. Again, this is what I said earlier. He hasn't had to worry about that pressure up the middle too much. So I'm going to take the Bucks on that one.
Don?
I think that's fair to say the Bucks probably have the better offensive line right now.
Okay, running backs. Don. Of course, we know we have Aaron Jones for Green Bay versus Ronald Jones II and Leonard Fournette. Which backfield are you taking, Don?
I think I'm going to go slight again with the Bucks because I think they have more of a two-headed running threat. So I'm going to say the Bucks on that one.
Frank?
They were pretty good last week.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but I don't know how healthy either one of the Joneses are right now.
That's right.
So,
you never can tell.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be someone's going to have to get in Leonard Fournette's ear and go, this is what you came here for. This is the thing that you've been missing. This is why you were released, and now you're here. So this is the time where it's time for you to step up. So I take Tampa Bay, and it's time for Leonard Fournette to have that game, to have that career game. Can he have it? That's another story, but it's time for him to have that career game.
Kind of in flux, Fournette and Bell. Wonder who's going to have the best playoff game, Frank?
I would say it's going to be Fournette because his game is easy to put out there. here's the ball, slam, bam, go. Weather's not going to affect him. Whether he's capable of doing that still, I don't know. But we haven't seen Le'Veon Bell do Le'Veon Bell stuff. And he has to have a rhythm to what he does. Whereas Fournette just go there, somebody's the way, run over him. So I think Fournette.
Yeah, I think it seems like Kansas City has forgotten Le'Veon Bell knows how to catch the ball, or they have so many weapons that they forget about him. But Don, let's talk about the two backfields. Aaron Jones for Green Bay, Jones and Fournette for Tampa Bay. And who has the better playoff game, Leonard Fournette or Le'Veon Bell?
I think Fournette is coming to his own finally. Someone say, I'll give it to him.
Okay, so that means you give it to him in both spots. Let's see. Let's talk about the wide receivers. Don, of course. Once again, you talk about Tampa Bay and you talk about Goodwin and Michael Evans. You talk about Green Bay, and you're talking about Adams and Lazard. So, who's got the advantage in wide receivers, skill positions? And I'm also including the tight end position in this. So you're also talking about a possible Gronk, as against Tunyon. Tunyon's, he's been on point. So, Don, the skill positions. Who has the upper edge?
Before I give my talking, didn't Lazard get hurt? Or am I imagining? Isn't he injured?
Well, he's another one of those that's uncertain, but he did play in the last game. So,
yeah, for some reason I thought I saw the ESPN call that he was doubtful or questionable or something. I don't know, but no, you got Goodwin and Evans. That's good enough for me. I'll go with Tampa Bay on that one, especially if we're not sure about the health of Lazard.
Well, and like I said, you got to include the tight end position in this now too. Is Tom going to be comfortable with Gronk?
Gronk isn't as good as he once was, but as good as he ever was. So
that's good. Hey, that's a good line there, Don. I like that one.
I think that came from a 1970s country song. Look at
it. I look at it right now, as Don said, you're Devontae Adams, and that's about it. Lazard may be able to play. They can shade to the tight end at that if Lazard can't play. And right now you've got Evans, you've got Godwin, you may have AB, you've got Gronkowski, and you've got Cameron Brate, who had a pretty good game last game. So you've got more weapons. So you go Tampa Bay on that one.
Okay. Let's see. We took the running backs, the wide defense. Frank, which defense? And we use the same criteria: personnel and coordinators. Frank?
See, for Green Bay, you've got to sell out and get pressure on Brady. If you don't, and he's proven it in the last few weeks, he's going to eat you up. And you're going to have to get to him. And I don't know that you have the personnel to do that. But if you scheme it, you're going to have to get to Brady. So that's going to be selling out, and you may get to him, you may not. If you look at Tampa Bay, they can get home without having to do as much. They've got a little bit more talent up front, I think. Pierre-Paul has been very hard to contain this year. I won't even make a joke about them being shorthanded. I'm not going to do that this time. But they have the ability to get home on the quarterback. Again, Rodgers isn't easy to sack, but if you can get to him without having to sell out, you're better off. So I'm going to give Tampa Bay the edge there.
Don?
I'm going to give the edge to Tampa Bay as well.
Wow. If we were making check marks here, it would seem that Tampa Bay would be the overwhelming favorite for the two of you. But I'm going to let you make your predictions after you make your predictions for the AFC Championship game. Don, give me what you would consider a reasonable score. And we're saying Patrick Mahomes against Josh Allen.
Yeah, so this game is going to be a humdinger. I'm going to say Kansas City wins it, something like 35-31, something like that, in overtime.
Whoa, okay, all right. You even give me overtime on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my nuts out there and say overtime.
See, get some popcorn. Don says it's gonna be on overtime. All right, Frank.
Pretty close to the same thing. 35-27, Kansas City.
Overtime or
no straight game?
Straight game. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it comes down to Mahomes making a drive, and whoever has the ball last, and I think Kansas City's going to have the ball last.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what's next. The Old Man Bowl. Who you got? Okay. Which old man you taking?
Battle of the Bays. And again, if we go straight down what we just said, obviously it looks like I'm thinking of Tampa Bay. So that means I'm going to take Green Bay. It's Aaron Rodgers, man. That's all I can say. I don't have an explanation for it. I just think that Aaron Rodgers is going to do maybe 2, maybe 3 things in the game that you go, what just happened? And that's going to be the game. But having said that, I don't think this is going to be that high scoring. I think it's going to be somewhere, I want to say 24-17 Green Bay.
When you look at the personnel here, Don, cold weather favors Green Bay. When you look at the Tampa Bay players, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, none of those guys have really played in cold weather. Tom, however, hey, New England, Patriot Stadium, Aaron, both of these are cold weather quarterbacks. So, Don, who you got?
Well, so I tell you what I got a stadium full of frozen people.
Yeah.
Maybe the ghost
crew. Don, it's 28 degrees in Green Bay. Half the stadium will have on T-shirts. A quarter of them will have on no shirts at all. And everybody will have cheese heads on top of their head. So 28 degrees in Green Bay is like 65 in Tampa Bay. So
that's the point.
The fans don't care about cold in Green Bay. So there you go. That's what do you think's here? Home field advantage, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same on what Frank is saying. On we've been talking about all the advantages that Tampa Bay has, but when it comes right down to it, it's the little things like home field advantage and who's gonna have the ball last. I think Aaron Rodgers is in a different gear when he's at Lambeau Field, and I'm expecting to see a Kansas City versus Green Bay Super Bowl. The score, I don't think there's going to be blowouts. I don't think I think it's going to be a close game, maybe somewhere between 24-21 or maybe even 28-24 or something like that. But I tell you one thing to think about, though. I think, and this could come into play maybe. I think the kicker, Crosby for Green Bay, is hurt. I think he got banged up. And so if it comes down to a field goal, Tampa Bay could pull out, but I don't think it's going to come down to that. I think they'll win it straight up.
Wow. All right. Then, as our final question, Don, does the loser retire?
I don't think so. I think Tom Brady, if he retires, and probably Aaron Rodgers the same way, they'll announce it at the first year saying, this is my final year. I don't think they're going to base their decision on one game.
Frank?
That's my opinion.
What do you think, Frank?
I think that the only way they retire this year is if they win a Super Bowl. They win a Super Bowl and they go, I proved what I had to prove. I shut all you bleeps up, and I'm done. Especially Tom Brady. It's like, okay, I went someplace else. I won without Belichick. I can go now. But I don't think they think they're done. So I don't think if they lose this game, they still have something to prove. Brady has something to prove because he didn't win without Belichick. Aaron Rodgers is still like, you drafted another quarterback behind me? This guy's going to sit here forever until I get what I want. There's no offense to him, but this guy ain't playing until I say I'm done. So I'm not just going to walk out of here and let that happen. I have to prove it to the front office now. I have to prove it to everyone else because this is what they've done. Again, remember, Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be the number one pick and dropped to 25. He's been sticking it to people ever since then. And Tom Brady was lucky to get drafted. And he's been trying to stick it to everybody. They've got something to prove, and we don't know exactly what it is, but they're not going to prove it by losing a game.
I think the one thing to look at that is also the body language. I don't know, like we're talking about Roethlisberger after that beating he took from. I was expecting him to say, "I'm done," because his body language was, "I'm defeated." Drew Brees, same way. But
very good point.
I don't see that body language from Brady or Rodgers just yet.
Yeah, well, hey, like I said, Rodgers is dancing at practice, so he's feeling pretty good. Wonder if he had to get permission like he had to get for his girlfriends. Oh, I mean, sorry about that. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah.
Philip Rivers looked the same way after his last game, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, but Philip Rivers looked like that his last game with the Chargers too. So it wasn't for him it was kind of carryover. I'm not surprised at him retiring at all. I really want to see Drew Brees retire, and it's not because I don't think that he might not have another season in him or anything like that. But at some point, when you look at, if what his wife said was true about all the injuries that he played with this season, I think, he deserves to retire. Yeah. Not that this year was any different from last year or anything like that, but, and during the crisis, his team made it to the playoffs once again. But, at some point, like you say, the body language comes in, and do I want to put my body through the training camps and then through, that daily workout. It's going to be interesting to see who really makes that decision. I'm really kind of like you, Frank. I think that if Brady would get to the Super Bowl, even if he would lose the Super Bowl, I think that he might retire. But I'm not. I think Brady will stay there another year, at least. Brady will mentor a quarterback. He's not. He doesn't have that ego that a Brett Favre or some of those guys have. I think he would actually mentor somebody if they would bring in the right personnel for him. Thank you guys for taking the time out tonight. Don, you got in a little late, so we'll let you have the last word. Frank, give me your final thoughts for the evening, man. Make sure you tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Well, I'm on Twitter at 1USN, the number 1USN. Everything else is either a variation of Ultimate Sports Network or Ultimate Sports Networks. And if you go to the website, www.ultimatesportsnetworks, there's a link tree link there, and you can find all the fun stuff. So we're doing some new stuff where we just started, as I said last week, our History of Sports series. So we just dropped a show this week where we did the Joe Frazier versus George Foreman 1 fight, which you would think that would have been a short show, but we did the entire show or the entire fight, and then we talked for about another 45 minutes after it. So that was really cool just to compare and contrast the Ali Frazier fight. And coming up next week, we'll have Foreman Ali. Final thoughts? We're living in interesting times, sports-wise. I'm not going to get political. I'm just looking at the sports times. We have a lot going on, and if you're able to enjoy what you're seeing, right now we've got NFL playoffs. You have the NBA starting to get in the full swing. The Major League Baseball hot stove off the season stuff is happening. NHL just started. The Australian Open is going to start in tennis here in another few days. The concept of sport is what keeps us going. It's our one constant. And I think that if we sit back and enjoy what we're seeing and take it for what it is, the diversion that it is that we all love, and embrace that, our passion, I think we're in good shape. I've noticed a few things on social media where people are taking shots at particular players, particular owners, particular coaches, without knowing what they're going through and what they have to do. Don has played major college football. He's been in the locker room. He knows. Most of us haven't. Let the people that know what's going on make their decisions and cheer them on. You don't have to agree, but understand you're not them. You're not a front office person. You don't know. You don't know what goes into the decisions that they make. You don't know what goes into the decisions of what the chemistry, as we say in the locker room. You may think you know, but you don't know. So understand that, whether it be the Brooklyn Nets or whether it be the Milwaukee Bucks or whether it be the Dallas Cowboys, let the people that know what's going on do what they're supposed to do. Be a fan, cheer and support, or go support another team. It really doesn't matter. But don't insinuate yourself in a situation and think you know more than they do.
Yeah. Hey, good advice there, Frank. Look forward to talking to you next week. And you got to get me in on one of those boxing shows, man. I got. Let me know what's going on there. I got to. Fortunately, I was just a little buck when those fights happened. So hey, get it from an old man's perspective. Don, before the Dwayne Haskins signing, one of the names that kept coming up in the Steelers talks was a guy named Sam Ellinger. You know anything about him?
I do. He's 6'3", weighs about 220, 225. He's built like a linebacker. In fact, he could probably play linebacker. He's got that kind of grit. His little brother is a linebacker at Texas. He's a redshirt freshman, so it runs in the blood, I guess. But yeah, Ellinger, I don't know if he'll ever be a starter in the NFL. But once you get past 30 yards, his accuracy kind of suffers. He doesn't have that accuracy. But if it's 4th and 1 and you need to get it, put the ball in his hands, he'll get it. He's good between the tackles. He actually is a fairly decent scrambler. I mean, he can make throws on the run, but not like Mahomes. But he keeps it getting compared to Tim Tebow. That type, maybe a little bit better passer than Tebow. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was, when they mentioned him, I was thinking of him, in that physical role, like maybe a Tyson Hill, but not
Yeah,
quite as accurate.
I tell
But
you, it's about quarterbacks. Someone you might want to think of. He's a former Texas quarterback. His name is Shane Buechele,
I was going to
uh,
go. Yep.
SMU. He had a phenomenal last 2 seasons. His dad was an infielder for the Texas Rangers, so he's one of those kind of like Mahomes baseball dad, but end up being football. Uh, keep your eye out on Shane Buechele. He's probably the best quarterback in the state of Texas right now.
oh,
I
all
was going
right,
to ask if they kept him instead of Ellinger because I always thought he was the better player.
Yeah, well, he's a better passer for sure.
well, your final thoughts for tonight, Don?
Final thoughts. Kind of a sad time for me right now. Found out yesterday that one of my teammates at Texas passed away, Mark Smith. His brother Todd was our center back in 1989, 90. And Mark was an offensive tackle. He died unexpectedly. Very sad time because of COVID. The memorial service is going to be delayed. Looks like, so the Smith family, prayers out to you. Huge loss. He was a guy that I would go and partake in adult beverages quite often with, and yeah, I was thinking about a lot of those guys that team have passed on. Shane Dronette, who played in the NFL, he committed suicide. Had the concussion, jelly brain, what they call it. Shane's one of the meanest guys I ever knew, but also one of the nicest guys you ever knew. James Lee, defensive back, he had shoulders injury and ended up with the embolism. But he, after his football career, he became a Presbyterian minister, churchman. And I always James, how many black Presbyterians do you see? I said, every black guy I know is either Methodist or Baptist or some kind of Pentecostal. You never see Presbyterians. And his congregation was primarily white. And he goes, Hayes, I get that all the time. But, yeah, so James Lee, he's passed. And I think about how young they were, but, that was over 30 years ago. So life happens, and the older you get, you lose things, and so that's my final thought. That's it.
Yeah, well, Don, wait till you get old as me, and your phone book looks like a graveyard. When you think of all the friends that you have that have passed, especially if when you think of sports buddies and guys that you served with and things like that, it's you have to thank God every day when you wake up and say, here I am, do what you will. But thank you guys for participating tonight. Next week, we'll be talking about Super Bowl 55, and we'll see how good our predictions were. And Don, we're going to have to talk a little Texas basketball, it seems like. Texas, is not just no longer just a football state, huh?
Hey, you know what? COVID happened. Shaka Smart wasn't able to get a haircut. He's growing his hair out.
Shaka-doo.
Yeah, Shaka-doo. So that tell you, that dude better not ever cut his hair again. That's what I hear.
Well, have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday right here on the SPORTSKRIB. Have a good night, everybody.